The Vryn delegation materialized on the human colony station, with the precision expected of a species that had conquered 36 star systems. Commander Thek straightened his ceremonial armor, its obsidian plates gleaming under the artificial lights. Behind him, 5 of the Vryn Empire's finest warriors stood in perfect formation. Each a veteran of countless battles, each capable of reducing a building to rubble with their bare hands. "We have come to assess your defensive capabilities," Thek announced to the human liaison, his voice resonating with the authority of a species accustomed to dominance. "The Empire wishes to understand if your kind possesses the strength worthy of alliance." Ellen Ward, a 30-something station supervisor with perpetually messy hair and coffee-stained coveralls, barely glanced up from her datapad. "Yeah, sure. Welcome to Frontier Station 7. Try not to break anything expensive." Thek's mandibles clicked in irritation. This was not the reception befitting warriors of his caliber. Before he could voice his displeasure, a small figure barreled around the corner at full speed. The human child, no more than 4 standard years old, with wild blonde curls and overalls covered in colorful stains, collided directly with Thek's armored leg. The impact should have sent the fragile creature sprawling. Instead, she bounced back, giggled, and immediately latched onto his clawed hand with both of her tiny ones. "You're really tall," she exclaimed, eyes wide with delight. "I'm Tava. Want to see the ventilation shafts? There's a family of space rats living in there. And they're so fluffy." Thek froze. In his 3 decades of military service, he had faced rebel uprisings, hostile first contacts, and the vacuum of space itself. Nothing had prepared him for this. "Unhand me, small human," he commanded, attempting to shake his arm free. Tava's grip, impossibly, held firm. Ellen finally looked up, utterly unsurprised. "Oh, that's Tava. She's in her exploration phase. Good luck with that." She returned to her datapad. "Your offspring has attached itself to our commander," one of the Vryn warriors hissed. "Yeah, they do that," Ellen replied, now scrolling through maintenance reports. "The kids are going through their adventurer phase. We've learned to just roll with it." Before Thek could formulate a response, Tava yanked on his hand with surprising strength. "Come on, the rats are gonna hide if we don't hurry." And to the absolute horror of his subordinates, Commander Thek, Slayer of the Rebellion of Proxima, destroyer of the Kelazon fleet, found himself being dragged down the corridor by a creature that weighed approximately 30 pounds. "Commander," his second-in-command started forward. "Stand down," Thek growled, though even he wasn't sure why he complied. Perhaps it was tactical curiosity. Perhaps it was the complete alienness of the situation. Or perhaps it was the absolute certainty in the child's eyes that this was, unquestionably, the most important mission in the galaxy. Within minutes, the other human children emerged like a coordinated strike force. They moved with the tactical precision of pack hunters, each selecting a Vryn warrior with the unerring instinct of predators choosing prey. A small boy with gap-toothed grin grabbed the hand of Lieutenant Vess. "You gotta help me build a fort in the cargo bay. It needs to withstand meteor attacks." 2 identical girls attached themselves to Warrior Kren's arms. "We're going to the observation deck to count all the stars. All of them. You're tall enough to reach the high windows." Ellen watched the chaos unfold with the weary acceptance of someone who had stopped being surprised by anything months ago. "The evaluation's postponed, I assume?" By the time the station's artificial sun set, Commander Thek found himself wedged into a ventilation shaft that was definitely not designed for Vryn anatomy, with Tava pointing excitedly at a nest of creatures that did, admittedly, possess a certain fluffy quality. "See?" she whispered with the seriousness of a general briefing her troops. "The mama rat is teaching the babies how to find food. We gotta be very quiet or we'll scare them." Keck, who had once infiltrated an enemy weapons facility by crawling through plasma conduits, nodded solemnly. "Understood, Tava." Over the next 3 days, the Vryn warriors were subjected to an exhaustive campaign. They built blanket fortresses engineered to withstand imaginary asteroid impacts. They played space pirates with rules that changed every 14 seconds. They were forced to attend a very important tea party, where the tea was actually juice, and the cookies were made from what Thek suspected was recycled protein paste. Lieutenant Vess, a decorated combat specialist, found himself lying on his back in the station's garden dome, staring up at the artificial sky while a 5-year-old explained the technical differences between meteors and asteroids with the confidence of an astrophysicist. "You humans," Vess said slowly, "you let your young ones simply—" "Without restriction?" "Pretty much," said the child's father, who was pruning tomato plants nearby. "I mean, we keep them away from the airlocks and the reactor core, obviously. But yeah, they're supposed to be curious. How else will they learn?" On the evening of the third day, Ellen found Thek in the observation lounge. Tava had finally exhausted herself and was asleep on his lap, drooling slightly on his armor. "So," Ellen said, settling into the chair beside him with her ever-present coffee. "Still want to assess our defensive capabilities?" Tech was silent for a long moment, carefully adjusting his arm so Tava wouldn't wake. "Your species sends its weakest members into unknown spaces and encourages them to explore. Your young ones possess no fear, only curiosity. They see potential allies in strangers who could destroy them with minimal effort." "That's one way to put it," Elin agreed. "And they survive," Thek continued, his voice filled with something that might have been awe. "They thrive, because you have created environments where such vulnerability is not weakness, but strength." He looked down at Tava, who had somehow managed to wrap one small hand around his clawed finger, even in sleep. "We Vrin raise our young in combat creches. We teach them that the universe is hostile, that trust is weakness, that only the strong survive. And you did survive," Ellen pointed out. "We survived," Thek agreed. "But we did not explore. We conquered. There is a difference." He paused. "Tava wishes to show me the hydroponics bay tomorrow. She says the tomatoes are as big as her head, and this is apparently very important." Elin smiled. "Sounds about right. I believe," Thek said slowly, "that the Empire has much to learn from humanity, though perhaps not in the way we anticipated." When the Vrin delegation departed 5 days later, each warrior carried a hand-drawn picture from their respective child guide. Text featured a remarkably accurate depiction of him and Tava meeting the space rats, complete with stars drawn in the background, and the words, "Best adventure ever," in crayon. The official report to the Vrin Empire read, "Humanity's greatest strength is not their weapons or their fleets. It is their absolute certainty that the universe is a place of wonder to be explored, not a threat to be conquered. They raise their cubs to be adventurers, not warriors, and somehow, impossibly, it works." In the personal log he would never share, Thek added, "Today, a 4-year-old human named Tava taught me that the bravest thing a warrior can do is trust. I have been humbled.